Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Barney Kunze, and we are just jumping on and getting started right now. And I see Jennifer. Can you wave there for me? Good. Okay, perfect. All right. I thought we were gonna. We had a hiccup there with getting our call scheduled, but I am going to give Jennifer just a minute or two to get settled. I'd like to welcome you guys. I should put my name on here just in case you don't know who I am. My name is Barney Kunze. I am a father and a husband from Ontario, Canada, and also happen to be the founder and creator of the Animal Wellness Summit. And if this is your first time watching, this is our live weekly coaching calls that we do. Originally, they were reserved only for our VIP paid members, but there's been such great value and content being delivered here that we've had the VIP members say, hey, you know what? These calls are amazing. And even though we want to keep them just to ourselves, it's kind of a shame that more people can't watch them and tune in on them. So if you know who a VIP member is, make sure you give them a high five and a handshake or whatever, and then know that they're cool because they're the reason why you guys can get on these for free. And so we do these every week. And as of right now, unless something changes, we're doing them every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern time, unless we need to reschedule for whatever reason. Sometimes that happens. Like last week, we had Dr. Christina Chambreau on, who was amazing, and we had to reschedule to the Thursday because she was somewhere in Florida, and she got caught out on a kayaking trip. She couldn't get back in time, and I thought it was the next day, so we ended up doing it on Thursday. It was phenomenal. So if you go to our YouTube page, which I will post a link to later on, then you can go there and watch it as a replay. Most of all of the calls are on our YouTube page, okay? So if you missed this live, of course, if you're on live, you're not missing it live, you're here. But if you're watching this after as a replay and you want to go back and think, well, hey, Barney mentioned about these other calls, you can go back and actually watch them, and they're really, really, really good. And I'm not just saying that because we have our next guest animal wellness expert sitting here in the lobby waiting to come on. And her name is Jennifer Lee, and she is from Alberta, Canada, and I'm from Ontario, so I'm going to bring her on. Are you ready there, Jennifer? Good? Okay. Let's bring you on. Let's test. I'm going to have to test her audio here. All right. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right. Perfect. Awesome. So welcome. I wasn't sure. Maybe we had gotten the wrong call details to you or something because it was about 1 o'clock, and I was like, oh, my goodness.
That was totally my fault. I am really awful with time zones, I have to admit.
Yeah. And that's, you know what? It happens because we have people from the presenters like you who are from all over the world, and it just so happens to be that we have 2 Canadians on here today, which is pretty awesome. Or at least I'll presume you're a Canadian because you live in Alberta, which some people are born Americans, but they live in Canada. And then we have Joanne Bodine, one of our great platinum members, who is from Alberta as well. She is up by the Edmonton area, Joanne is. But so Joanne, good on you, and Happy New Year to you too. She said Happy New Year. So Jennifer, why don't we jump straight into this, because I think there's gonna be a lot of questions. I have a couple that were submitted, and the other thing too I wanted to mention for those of you when you're here live, if you have a question, just pop it into the comment, as a comment, and I will do my best to make sure that I pull it up and answer them for you. Last time we didn't have enough time at all. There was more questions that came in than what we had time for. So if you think of something as we start going here, just pop it in as a comment and I'll answer it for you. But Jennifer, tell us about kind of who you are, your story, and what it is that you do so that people can kind of get to know you a little bit better beyond the title of what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess I feel like I am just a regular person, a pet owner, who I guess just started asking those deeper questions when my own animals were having issues, which I think is how a lot of us end up to be working in this industry.
Yes.
So many, many years ago, you know, I had a dog who had really, really awful ear infections. You know, to the point where she was scratching and crying and all of this horrible stuff. And I think that was really the point when I started digging deeper. You know, what is going on? Why is this happening to my dog? Why are the veterinary treatments not resolving the issue for her? So I think that was, the start of my journey into natural pet care.
Yeah.
And I got involved with the breed of dog called Mastiffs. And we share our home with quite a number of them now. And we got into showing them and into breeding them. And so it became even more important to me to really understand and be able to prevent issues. Everyone wants a healthy dog. No one wants a dog that has all these chronic problems. So that's kind of how my journey started. And I began educating myself. And in 2012, I started a company called The Natural Carnivore, which is basically just educating other pet owners, doing consultations to help them with their animals, learn about prevention, learn about all the things that they need in their lives so that they can thrive.
Yeah, that's really cool. And by the way, I know I didn't maybe give you the briefing on your screen. Can you tilt your computer screen a little bit closer to you, or like tilt it down, just so that way? Yeah, but when I go to that's good, because when I go to put comments in the bottom, and sometimes it'll cut you off. But there's a couple questions that I can't, like they're big, so it'll like almost take up the whole screen. So that's really interesting, because I come from the holistic health world, in specifically with humans, and then my interest, of course, personally, which really that's why this started. I've been questioned in a good way, just from a curiosity way. People ask me like, well, why are you doing the animal wellness stuff? You're not even an expert. I'm like, I know. I'm an expert in communities and networks of people that have things to share with people who care. And it came from a personal interest of mine, and that's why I just think it's unique. As I was sharing this with you, I think it's so cool because you started just your personal interest, and then you went through, and now you're able to advise and consult with people to give them advice. So do you do anything like is that your main business right now that you do? Is that like your main full-time thing with the kind of coaching, educating, consulting kind of thing, or do you do anything else with your business?
I do so many things, really. We also have a raw dog food business.
Okay.
Well, raw pet food, I guess, dogs and cats.
Yeah.
And we also have a small business doing some boarding of dogs. So we do that. And I'm also working right now with another holistic veterinarian, just kind of assisting them with their programming and doing some outreach work for them.
Cool.
So, yeah, there's lots of different things.
Yeah, no, and I'm asking because this is I know that the questions are going to come up. We're going to, if you have your website, we'll be able to post that, because if we don't put it on the call now and share with people, we get inundated, which it's cool. We take care of people for sure. It's just that Jamie, my wonderful assistant, gets bombarded with questions in the support desk, and we can't always answer them. So that's why it's good if people have specific questions, they can come to you. Now, for the dog or for the food, so the raw food business, okay. So is it something that people, I guess before we get into the topic of what we're going to talk about in regards to your presentation, how does that work? So do people order it online, or is it just local serve?
It is. We are serving local customers now.
Okay.
So in the local area, you can pick up from us, or we deliver to close areas. And basically how that kind of started is that we were ordering so much food for our own dogs that it really just made sense to offer it to other people for sale. And so we get in probably like every month we get like a ton of dog food, like literally a ton.
Yeah.
So, because our dogs are large and they do have quite an appetite, so it takes a bit to keep them in food.
Yeah, well, and it's not like mastiffs are small dogs either, right?
No.
No, not like my little Lucy dog. She was, I don't know, probably 20 pounds. Like she was a Shih Tzu poodle or Shih Tzu Bichon cross. So she was pretty small. Didn't take a lot to feed. It was like feeding a cat for her.
Yeah, and like when you have really large dogs who are eating a lot of food, you know, some of my dogs eat, well, especially when they're young and growing, they can eat, you know, nearly 10 pounds of food a day.
Wow.
And they're in their heavy growth spurt, especially the boys. So for us, it was really important to secure a really good source of dog food that was an affordable cost, because I mean, you could just go broke feeding a whole pack of large dogs.
Right.
Um,
And that's a lot. I mean, you take 10 pounds a day, that's 300 pounds a month, or almost 1,000 pounds of food a quarter.
and that's one dog, right?
Yeah.
So normally most of our dogs eat about 4 pounds a day.
Okay.
So, but we have 6 right now, so it's still a lot of food.
That's a lot. Yeah. What is it? Yeah, that's just a lot of food.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's some questions. Let's jump into some questions. And by the way, we put the title, so your presentation from the summit, why don't you give us like a brief kind of recap? I know that there's going to be people that have never watched it at all. So in their benefit, can you just kind of briefly recap what you covered? Because I know we're going to be mentioning it, and there's no way you're going to be able to cover even the majority of it, but just a brief little recap. It was the key to dog health, optimal gut function.
Yeah.
So give us a brief little recap.
For sure. So just to recap, basically, I chose the topic because it's something that it can affect any dog, basically. I think there's lots of gut dysfunction going on, and people may not even be aware of it, because you won't necessarily see symptoms of, you know, diarrhea or typical things, symptoms that you would say, oh, my dog has some gastrointestinal problems. You know, it could be many different symptoms that you may not associate with having actual problem in the GI tract. So I've seen some research that states that up to 90% of chronic disease can be attributed to gut dysfunction. So it's a huge issue. So I just really wanted to bring more awareness to the topic. So basically, there's a number of things that contribute to gut problems. Okay, that's your food. Okay, what are you putting in your animal's body? Processed foods are not a natural food. They're going to cause problems in that area. Medications and antibiotics are a huge contributor to gut problems. And how many dogs don't go on antibiotics for something or another at some point, right? There's so many antibiotics being prescribed to dogs over and over and over. And sometimes it's for, you know, the veterinarian will say, well, let's kind of try this and see if it resolves the symptoms. They don't even know if it will or if they're needed. So all of these things, steroids, pain medications, NSAIDs, those destroy the lining of the gut. Toxins that are in the environment, in their food. It's kind of a perfect storm going on, all of these different things combining to create lots of gut problems. Now, when dogs have problems in their guts, this leads to then a whole host of other problems. You know, they're not digesting their food properly, so they're not assimilating the nutrients that they need to be healthy. Their immune function is impaired. They have a lot of inflammation in their body, which we know is a precursor to a great host of problems. Even things like anxiety and behavioral concerns can be linked to gut dysfunction. So I guess the steps you would need to take when you're looking at restoring the health of the gut is to look at the diet. You want a species appropriate, preferably raw food, preferably from organic foods. That has all the natural enzymes, and it's just what they're designed to eat. So that is the biggest thing. And the diet, what the dog is eating, has the biggest impact on their microbiome, which is the collection of all of the microbes that live in and on the dog's body. Number one thing to change that is what they're eating. So never mind, the plethora of supplements that are available out there. Unless you're changing the diet first, you're still gonna keep running into problems, and they're not going to fully be restored in health.
Right.
So supplements can be useful for sure. I find they are best suited when they're very tailored to the individual animal and what kind of things are going on with them. Just to throw a bunch of stuff at a dog, you might really be wasting your money.
Yes.
So really the key is the diet, the environment, clean it up. And you're going to save yourself a whole lot of problems just by doing that.
Yeah, and that's, I think that at the surface it seems so obvious, but I mean, when you start having problems or issues and you're metaphorically too close to the situation, it could be challenging to kind of know exactly what to change. And I think that's what we've noticed with people as part of our VIP community, just saying, well, it felt like they didn't know, they weren't really sure, they just needed a little bit of reassurance, and they'll ask a question and get some confirmation. And I think that's where a lot of the knowledge is out there, but it's applying it in the right time, in the right kind of sequence or order can be where the tricky part comes in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because for just an example, if a dog has a condition called small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, okay, what that is the bacteria that normally reside in the colon, which is quite further down the intestinal tract, those bacteria can move up and into the small intestine, and they cause a bunch of problems because they're not supposed to be there. So if people think, oh, my dog has some, digestive upset, and I'm going to give them some probiotics because probiotics are really good and they're really helpful. So they do that. And depending on the strains of probiotics, they could be those same strains that have moved from the colon to the lower intestine or the upper intestine. And now they're just adding more fuel to that fire. They're just putting more of those bacteria in there and actually causing more problems. So in that case, first you'd have to deal with removing those bacteria from the small intestine and sending them back down where they're supposed to be. Just as an example.
Yeah, no, really, that's important. That's why I say it's like the knowing what to do. It's not so much to know what to do, but how to do it.
Yeah.
You can go online, do the research, and okay, I know that that's what I need to do. These are the steps. But here's the recipe to make this nice meal. But then if you mix up the order and how you put something together, or in the wrong quantity, or it's not good quality, it's not going to taste the same, look the same. And the funniest thing that comes to mind is those funny images or memes, which I think now it's a TV show where it's like, oh, nailed it. Like, nailed it as a joke where it looks this really nice, pretty meal, and then somebody tried it and then they totally destroyed it, which as my silly little metaphor to make a joke out of which it's not, if you're struggling with an issue right now, it's not really fun, but just to prove the point that you got to order. So a question from Kim. This is going to take up most of the screen here, so you can see this. If you can see this on there.
Yeah.
And while you're reading, I'm going to read it out loud for the recording. So my 13-year-old black lab will bark and then act like she's gagging. Plus, she does seem to have reflux often, i.e. bringing up what's in her stomach when she's burping. She's on Galliprant daily for hip pain and weekly injections of Adequan. Thank you, Kim. Now, what are your thoughts on that in regards to does that allude to something, kind of the bringing stuff up?
Oh, it's it's hard when you get some information like from Kim. Thanks, Kim, for your question. You know, when I'm consulting with people and their animals, I really get a full history of the animal and current symptoms, past symptoms, you know, what kind of food they're eating, what's in their environment. So, and all of that really contributes, of course, to what my recommendations are going to be for the animal. So it's a little bit challenging in this situation to kind of give advice, I guess.
Sure, yeah.
But for Kim there, what she's talking about with her dog, for sure, you know, the symptoms that she mentioned does kind of lead me to think there could be some gastrointestinal stuff going on there. But like I said, without a full kind of history of the animal and seeing the big picture, I wouldn't really be able to say, oh, it's this or it's that. And I don't diagnose conditions.
Right.
But yeah, for sure, from what she has written, there could be some gastrointestinal problems going on. So
yeah, she did comment on this, saying she feeds Merrick Green with True Dog, 4 or 5 with booster on top, and then this part here gets colostrum and probiotics. So I know that, and I know Kim, this is actually on one of her calls like this, which just FYI, Kim, if you want to go more in depth, Jennifer is available that you can reach out to after, because last time with Dr. Christina, we had about 13 men wanting to reach out to her because they were just sharing stuff as Melissa, but we'll pull this up here where she said, you know, perfect timing. And it was about 3 or 4 of those where what Dr. Christina was talking about was right on point, but we just didn't have time to dig into it. But from what you've noticed, if you speak in general terms, what can cause that? Typically, a gastrointestinal issue can cause the burping and like the throwing the food up. But is that an under, like the acidity in the stomach is too low?
low, yeah. Mostly there's more problems with having too low of acidity in the stomach. Can create digestion problems. They just can't digest things fully. And burping, you know, that speaks to some gas going on. You know, it's so funny. Well, it is funny, but it's not. How many people complain about their dog's gas? You know, oh, it's just awful. It, you know, have to leave the room. And, okay, that there is, okay, hello, there's a sign right there. It's not normal, okay? Dogs are not supposed to stink you out of your house. So
it's as a lot, while we're talking about farting and pooping and stuff like that, we might as well get right into it. It wouldn't be a good call if we didn't talk about farting and pooping, I guess, right?
Absolutely.
But the golden rule from my perspective from human health is that if that's the case, the more toxic smelling the farts are or the gas, the more intense something is that's going on within the body. And the old saying when it comes to holistic health is it's better out than in, and so the body's trying to get it out. Yes. But I'm curious how you would increase the acidity of, like, thinking for humans, like if I had a client would say that, I'm like, I give them some apple cider vinegar to take daily, and that usually helps quite a bit. It doesn't fix everything. But
Yeah.
how would you do that with a dog, or how would you handle it?
I mean, again, number one is the diet, right? When dogs are eating a processed, dry kibble diet, that definitely impacts the acidity
Yeah,
on the stomach. And it's not as acidic as when they're on the raw food diet. So that number one, again, it's the foundation is the diet. Kim mentioned that her dog was on a grain-free kibble, which lots of people, are using that for their animals. But it's still not comparable to a raw food diet. It is still dead food.
yeah,
It's been cooked, it's been heated, it's been processed, it's been preserved. Whether those preservatives are natural or not, it's still not the same. There's just no comparison.
yeah.
So that would be my first recommendation for Kim is get him on a raw food diet.
Yeah, and did she say that earlier about something? I thought she said something. Oh, maybe it's feed grain-free true dog. Okay, so Kim, hopefully that helps. We're going to move on to the next one, but I hope that helps. By the way, if any of you humans out there having indigestion after the holidays, we'll hear that is, well, there's an oil that we use for humans called Digize, which really helps. But if you don't have your hands on Digize, which is a blend of oils that are in there that are to help support your digestion. But apple cider vinegar is really good. You just put a tablespoon in a glass of water, and then drink it down, and it helps. Just not too much water, because I found that clients, if they did that, it would make water down the acidity, like it wouldn't have the same effect. But if you take it straight, it's really strong, and it can actually harden your throat. Now, Joanne, who hopefully is still on here, as I always like to say this because I wasn't able to pronounce her name properly, but Joanne Bodine from Alberta. So I'll leave her question up here for you to read, Jennifer, and I'll read it out loud for the recording. Oh shoot, that's the wrong one. My bad. I put up Kim's. So I have two Japanese chins, Dakota 15 and Sakima 12. I feed them raw from mountain dog food from Canada. 15 years young, Dakota has become fussy and eating to the point of not wanting to eat. I don't go to kibble or can. I think she's saying I don't want to go to kibble or can. How can I make it more interesting to them? I'm vegan, so I don't buy meat. So I think it appears that she's feeding raw. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, Mountain Dog Food. I know the company. They're up here in Canada. Yeah.
Okay.
So the becoming fussy. Sorry, I'm just rereading this again here quickly. So with the raw diet, awesome that you're feeding raw, Joanne. That's great. One thing that I find the dogs absolutely love, I've only heard of one dog who wasn't interested in it, and that is green tripe. Raw green tripe. I think you could probably find it, Joanne, at, the name escapes me now. It's a pharmacy in Edmonton, and they sell raw food there. She probably knows the company, and it's off of 75th Street, I believe. And I know that they sell tripe. So
raw tripe,
green tripe. It's basically a ruminant animal, their stomach. So like cow stomach.
Okay.
I call it doggy crack.
Yeah.
Dogs love it, in my experience, and it's very, very nutritious for them. So that would be one thing I would try with your dogs, especially since they're older. There's great health benefits in the tripe. It's full of natural probiotics and enzymes, which, older dogs, their enzyme function can be depleted.
Yeah.
So to give them a little boost in that area. And it's very, their dogs are very interested in eating it. So for her fussy dog, I would try that for sure.
Okay, and you can't see this, but she said, won't do it. Tried it once. Nope, nope, nope. He did not like it. So maybe she's the one. Maybe the 1% said she already tried it. So this is where, Joanne, you might want to connect to Jennifer after, because again, this is where, just we do go in as detail as we can. But I think, I don't know, I mean, basically just getting fussy, which, I mean, I have a 4-year-old right now, girl, McKenna, my daughter, who is she just is really fussy, and my wife is getting really stressed out. And then I'm like, we just have to food test. The girls are all different and unique, and we can't just cook one meal and just force it down their throats. And she's like, well, that's really stressful. I'm like, I know, but so is cooking food that they don't eat, and then they don't eat, and then we get stressed out, and then we have food spoilage or wastage. And so her metabolic type might be different, so we have to test things. So we found 3 meals last week that worked really well, and it was really simple stuff. But she is like, we have to hide the salt container from her, the sea salt, because she always wants to eat salt. And I was talking to Dr. Susan Medeo, and she's like, well, just let that indicate, she's not conditioned yet that much as a 4-year-old to know what she should or shouldn't eat. She's just naturally going towards what she's craving.
Yes.
Of course, we could have a long discussion about what kids want to eat, sugar and stuff. So just, oh, well, they want it, so just let them go have it. It's not like that. But I guess, Joanne, what I was just going to say is try all of the different foods that you've made and make a list of the ones that he or she used to like, and then just keep getting creative and then see what works. And it might not. The hard part is when the human mind gets involved. Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know. I don't think he'll like it, or she won't like it, and then we put our ideas into that, and then but you got to kind of let them go with it, and that's maybe not super easy, but I think at this point, she's
sorry, she mentioned her dogs were older. I mean, it could be that there is an underlying health issue going on, that the dog's not feeling super well, and therefore that would be why it's not interested in eating as much. I know with my own dogs, they never refuse food, basically, unless they're ill. So to me, that's a really good indication to kind of start digging and looking and seeing what's going on, maybe run some blood work, just some basic testing to see if there's anything indicated that would give you some clues as to where to look further.
Right. Okay. Cool. Well, that's good. So Joanne Bodine from Alberta, hopefully that helps you. And I look forward to seeing you in May, June. She's really excited. We're coming out to Ontario for our AWS Live event. She keeps messaging me like every week about the details.
Excellent.
Yeah. Gonna be good. Okay, so Melissa, we see your comments here. Hang on one second. Okay, so this is interesting. Joanne just said he was at a dog kennel and she was mixing some canned with the raw and he ate it all. So I don't know. I mean, I would just say this, that I've had people who were so regimented with their nutrition on a physical health and fitness level or perspective in the health and wellness field, but they were the most unhealthiest people that I've met. They couldn't go and eat and enjoy. My philosophy is, and you can totally disagree with me respectfully, Jennifer, and I'm not going to, or even other presenters or anybody else who watches this, but I really, really strongly believe in the principle of moderation and having an 80-20 rule. So I like to eat clean and exercise and be consistent with that 80 to 90% of the time, but sometimes in all visits like 50 to 60% of the time. And then 20% of the time, I like my wine and beer and chips and pizza, and I like doing that. And I found that when I would go too regimented with it one way, then I would build it up, and then I would crash, and then I'd find myself in my kitchen, devouring an entire bag of chips, or I drink 5 beers in one night when I normally don't. And yeah. I'm only sharing this because maybe if you could find some good canned food, I know people are like, I can't believe you even say this, but the proof is in the pudding right there, that maybe you just need to treat it like a little treat and try that and see that maybe it brings them back to just get a little bit of the cravings met, or I don't know what it is, but Does that make any sense to you, Jennifer, with your experience?
Yeah, yes and no. I totally agree with you on the human side of it.
Yeah.
You know, you got to indulge in some of those things once in a while that you enjoy.
Yeah.
And whatever, as long as the majority of the time, I think you're eating the better foods
Yeah.
and whatnot, you're good to go. But, and with animals, you know, of course, we're in control of what they're eating. So it's easy, you know, there's no willpower involved on the dog's part, right?
Right.
So yeah, we can have them 100% healthy, no treats, no bad stuff. Is that practical? I don't think so. You know, dogs enjoy treats, things that, you know, they shouldn't really eat, like ice cream. Sure, why not? Once in a
Yeah.
while, right?
Yeah.
But another thing I'll just mention about the canned food, how the dog ate with the canned food is canned food is very palatable to dogs. So it kind of, I think that the scent that is there from the canned food is really interesting to them, and especially if they haven't eaten it for maybe a long time.
Yeah.
Most dogs are going to eat it, so just to be aware, it might just be the trigger that, oh, this is delicious and the dog's going to eat it all because it's something different too, right?
Yeah, and maybe you can flavor the food, or I don't know, flavor, but do something to it to make it a little bit more interesting. And because I don't know, I have a sense that this is actually a much bigger challenge.
Yeah.
These are like the things that go on behind, like, oh yeah, I feed Ron, everything's just perfect, and I switch over and it was perfect. Well, you don't hear about the stories about the dogs or the cats switching over and then vomiting and having diarrhea and having, but sometimes I've heard that you switch it and it's good, and it's just like the animal adapts to it and they do really well. But there are the circumstances that it doesn't always work. And my last comment is to go back, because I'm going to get to Melissa's question here, is that, and I think Dr. Judy Morgan mentioned this on one of her calls, is that there's the biochemical individuality principle that all dogs and cats and humans, we all have the same makeup, blood, skin, bones, organs, but the way in which we process protein, fats, and carbohydrates is drastically different. And the same applies, correct me if I'm wrong, to animals. And so the only way you're going to really know that is by trial and success, seeing what works and what doesn't.
Yes, absolutely. And just another point of note, I encourage all my clients to learn how to do muscle testing if they're not aware of how to do it. It is, you know, once you get the hang of it, it can just save you so many problems when you're choosing foods for your animals, choosing supplements, all of those things. Yes, oils, absolutely. You just save yourself so much time and trial and figuring things out. So
yeah, there's I'm drawing a bit of a blank right now. Kim Shotola and another lady who presented together this year, and they talked about muscle testing and explaining the basics of it. And I think I just checked the sheet. I think that they are coming up later this month. So you want to stay tuned for that one because they talked about it. Same thing like you said before. It takes the guesswork out of, is this what they need? Is it not what they need? Is it how much? It can really work. Okay, Melissa's question. She's been posting this. So I'll read it while you're out loud, so while you're reading it. So perfect timing. I was just thinking my dogs are having gut dysfunction. I'm baffled. My dogs are active, shiny coats, no exposure to toxins that I'm aware of. Just added digestive enzymes, in brackets, in clover. They are beginning to lose weight and appear kind of hyper and seem ravenous. No parasites, been feeding raw for over 20 years and never had an issue. So I'm baffled as to what might be occurring. Would love some help. And then she followed up with this after saying, been wondering if they need warm cooked food. Never did that, always raw. and I raw rear, so she like brings them up
Okay.
with raw. Does that give you a bit of context?
Yeah, I guess a little.
It can be hard sometimes.
It can, like without getting the real full picture. But I find it interesting is she's saying that more than one dog, she says all her dogs. So are they all experiencing the same issue, losing weight? I mean, that would seem to me that, you know, whatever, maybe they're getting fed or something that is affecting all of them. So did something with her food change, or, you know, the supplier, or is she feeding less fat in the diets or something?
No, this is, I didn't want to cut you off. I was just going to say, this is where, for everybody watching, this is where the challenge comes in. I'll just take a little pause for a second, which, Jennifer, I'm not sure if you have been notified yet about our live event that we're doing in May, June. I think it's going to be end of May or beginning of June. Did you hear about that yet?
I believe I did, so let's hear about it.
So we're doing a 2-day live, essentially a conference. It's being called AWS Live for this reason, because there's the benefit of having all this online training and interaction, and it's great because we can reach a lot of people. There's different countries on, and it's free, the free coaching calls. The challenge is that it's hard to kind of dig in and get to the details, and I can sense your hesitation with answering, or, you know, because not really getting the full picture. And of course, Melissa, you know, put as much detail as she could there. But that's why we're doing that in May and June. So just know that there's going to be more interaction and hit the hands-on training. But the other thing is to say that, Melissa, I have a sense that I'd like to encourage you to reach out to Jennifer and talk to her, because I know what she's already thinking. Like, okay, is it, how many dogs do you have? How many of them are experiencing it? What changed in their nutrition? You know, have they had any extra unknown stresses or things that you might not be thinking about that be creating stress that's changing their hormonal profile, which is changing what they're craving and needing? Is it that it's like crazy wintertime where you are, if you're up in Alaska and they just need a lot more fat and protein? Maybe that's obvious and you're already doing that. Are you in Florida and the temperature is always the same, but like Jennifer said, the suppliers change and it's a different source of food now or something like that? That's where I think at the surface sometimes it can be easy but also challenging, because there's all the factors that need to be considered. Now, you mentioned this before with a questionnaire. I have myself a health and lifestyle, nutrition and lifestyle health appraisal questionnaire. It's a mouthful. That if you wanted to work with me privately to work on your health and well-being, you'd go through, it's an 86 question questionnaire, and I can tell a lot about somebody after answering how they answer those questions. So it's like an intake form, and my coach would always say, if you're not assessing, you're guessing. And so is that what you do? Like, is it
very similar? Okay. Yeah, I have a big long questionnaire that I get people to fill out prior to working together. That just gives me all the information, or most of the information that I need to really assess kind of what's going on. There's just because, like you say, there are so many factors to look at. I don't want to give any recommendations really without knowing the big picture, because that could be so wrong.
Right.
So I don't want to lead anyone astray. So it is challenging to kind of give some recommendation with having just a limited amount of information. So
yeah,
that conference sounds wonderful.
Yeah, and not like you have to wait. I want you to, I put this up here because Melissa followed back up with this again, saying that the dogs do get organic ACV, which, by the way, did you already answer this, or is there a supplement? Like, how are they getting the ACV, which is apple cider vinegar, for those of you who read what the acronym is? But what do you like? Do you suggest that for some animals, and if so, how do they take it?
Apple cider vinegar?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I've just, you can mix it in with their food, actually.
Really?
Yeah,
And they'll eat it?
yep.
Okay.
Some dogs can be a little bit fussy. You can,
Yeah.
start with a really low amount if they're more particular about what's in their bowl.
Yeah.
And also mix it with a little bit of water to take some of the
Bitterness.
intensity out of it a little bit, because can be quite flavorful.
It is, yes. So I think that for Melissa, before we move on, there's a couple more questions and two that have been emailed in I'd like to get to before we wrap up here. But I think that it's, to me, from my humble perspective, Melissa, it sounds like you're doing a lot of the right things. And I think that doing some sort of if you can take the emotions out of it, which I don't think this is necessarily the case for you, Melissa, but just a suggestion that when it comes to dealing with your own changes in your health and well-being, your animals, or like your finances, like what the heck are we talking about finances for an animal health and wellness? But it's because when you take the emotions out of it and you just look at the actual tangible data, so to speak, or the hard data, or what are the answers to the question, then a skilled practitioner or person like Jennifer can say, yeah, okay, here's what I would suggest and recommend based off this, that, and the other. Because we can actually try to convince ourselves that we're doing all the right things. And you very well could be. I'm not saying to you, Melissa, that you're not. But what I've learned and observed over the last year and a half, working with a lot of the presenters like Jennifer, is that it's usually some of the things that you don't think about, or could seem so obvious, but you don't necessarily think that it could be that easy. I don't know if that necessarily helps, but
It's very true. Yes, I would totally agree with you, Barney. Even, can you hear that snoring, by the way?
a little bit, a little bit.
It sounds really loud on my end here. So,
Okay.
sleeping dogs. Anyways, um, it is hard when it's your own dogs. You are in that situation. You are living it. You may have emotional upset over, some challenges that your dogs are having. It's much more challenging to really look at it objectively. Absolutely. And even myself, I have, consulted with colleagues on a couple of things with my own dogs. There's things it's like almost like you have a block
Yeah.
somewhere and you just can't see it. I don't know why, but kind of the way it works. The emotions get in and
yeah, that and it's the saying you can't coach yourself to a higher level than you currently are at, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's why I have coaches in areas in my life that I feel like I don't need, and then when I don't have them, I'm like, oh yeah, this is help
Yep.
hold me accountable.
Right.
Melissa, I hope that helps. And then there's these other questions, but she did say, great info. Yes, it's been freezing cold here and and I've been experiencing deep grief. So side note, I think you would be well served to look more into that, Melissa. Maybe different essential oils can help. And my chicken source is a human grade from local that is a pet mix that could have changed as well. So there are two things there's the grief, it's freezing
Yep.
cold. Those are three big factors. For me
Mhm.
personally, in the wintertime, I switch to more like I live like an Eskimo. If I don't get enough fat and protein, not really, but if I don't eat enough fat and protein, look out between me and the food.
Mhm.
It's going to be nasty if I don't get enough sufficient food. And the summertime, I can live more like almost like a vegetarian, but if I do that in the wintertime, that's dangerous.
And also the temperature of the food too, right? That's, I think, something to consider in the summertime when it's really, really cold as compared to, when it's really hot out.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, this one is a big one. It's going to definitely cover up the whole screen. But hi, I have an FMD that seems to vomit, which I'm not sure what FMD stands for. That seems to vomit when not fed exactly on time. My lab mix also has been vomiting more lately. Both are on the same diet: raw chicken, cooked oatmeal, steamed carrots, spinach, raw peas, and blueberries. So 25% veggie oatmeal mix to the amount of raw chicken. They've been on this diet for over a year. I add bone meal calcium morning and fish oil at night. I can't seem to narrow down the problem. They seem healthy otherwise. FME is 3 and lab is mix is 12.
Okay, so a couple things here. You see a lot on the internet, people saying that their dogs are throwing up because they're hungry. And, you know, it happens before meal times, and it's just basically a bile, kind of yellowish, watery kind of substance. Okay?
I was laughing because of the snoring. I heard it.
Okay. There's quite a few of them snoring here, so hopefully they don't overpower me.
Nope, that's good.
So that is a signal that there's some gut dysfunction going on, number one. Number two, when we feed our dogs at the same time every day, they get to where, and I'm sure you've all experienced it, you know, they look at the clock and they say, hey, it's time for me to eat my meal now. And, you know, they'll come find you, they'll be pestering you, and come on, it's that time, right? And basically their body's already getting ramped up to eat. You know, their stomach is getting the acid going, and a lot of times if they don't get food, then that acid doesn't have anything to digest and it can come up. So dogs, by their nature, are meant to eat actually a really large volume of food all at once. And then they fast and they digest, sometimes for several days, before they eat another meal again.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's how wolves eat. It's how majority of wild canines eat. Yeah. Exactly how our dogs are designed to eat. So because we think, oh, I need to eat 3 times a day and have some snacks in between, my dog needs to eat 2 or 3 times a day and have some snacks in between. But really, that's not how they're designed to digest and how take in food. You know, a canine's stomach is actually designed to hold about 20% of their body weight in food. So their stomach, the way it is, it's actually folded up on itself. Yeah. So when they eat, it just expands. It takes up a majority of their abdominal cavity when it's full. And then they rest and they digest that food. And then they don't really feel like, you know, they're not out looking for a meal because they're very satiated. Right. And when they digest that food, and then in a few days, you know, they're okay, I can eat again now. You know, it's kind of like what happens at Christmas dinner, right? Yeah. So my point of all that is that we can help our dogs in their digestion if we actually feed them at random times. Okay, they'll pester you because they're used to this eating at, you know, 7 o'clock in the morning and 5 o'clock at night. But it can be very beneficial to them. And after a little while, they'll stop pestering you and they'll just be happy when they get fed. Right. So well, I go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that's interesting because there's times where the guiding principle that I've used with my clients, I just had a conversation with them today, Gordon and Susan's having some issues, and she went to the physio, says this, and I'm telling her that, and then the doctor says, well, that's pretty much, I can't do anything for you, and told the receptionist I can't do anything for this patient anyways. And then the receptionist told Susan what happened, and Susan's like, well, great, I went to the doctor to try and get some clarity, now I'm more confused. And I said, to the degree that you kind of put all of your power outside of yourself. It's 14 hours. Pardon me, the computer just told us it's 14 hours or 2 o'clock. That it makes it less, it makes it more challenging for you to make decisions. But when you can really take more stock of like knowing, and what I'm getting to is just basically saying that what you're sharing, I haven't heard when it comes to feeding your pets animals, but I agree with that because if you look in the wild, and I know that people will argue and say, well, where did the animals aren't in the wild, they're domesticated now, but the way their physiology, DNA, and genome is designed is that it hasn't changed a lot in hundreds or thousands of years. And so I think I think for the other questions that were mentioned to Kim and Melissa, and even Joanne, is to try that, because A, it's less stressful for you, not having to feel like you got to have a regimented schedule of feeding every day at the same time, because there's no wolf out there that's leading the pack. And just like go to the restaurant now and they're going to have our food ready for us at 4 o'clock and we're all going to be hungry. They eat when they eat. And so I think maybe even just trying that and eating is good, because it's not like they're going to really actually starve. You just, when they're really hungry, you'll know. But that also does kind of give the body a chance to kind of cleanse itself or utilize the nutrients that are floating around in the body already anyways.
Absolutely.
Really good.
Yes, and Barney, before my computer battery dies, I really need to run and grab my cord so I can plug in. Can you give me 1 minute?
Yeah, go do that. Yep, go do that. I'll be right here. So I'll just talk about, I'm going to pull up another couple questions here when Jennifer comes. So welcome, Candace from New Jersey. Or you put MJ, but I think you meant NJ. So I have some friends in New Jersey and in Young Living. Some of my best friends are in Young Living in New Jersey. And Brenda, I'm going to pull up your question. I think we actually already got to your question. And Kevin, nice to see you on here. And I'll pull up your question as well. But I want to tell you guys 3 things. One is, for those of you who are interested in wanting to join, usually every week we get a couple questions about our VIP program. So we have our free summit that we do every year. There's a few of you that are on here that are brand new to our community. We have our free content, weekly live coaching calls like what you're on right now. And then we have our paid membership community where there's basically for less than $1 a day. In fact, right now, the VIP membership is around 64 cents a day. And it gives you access to all of the past training content that we have. I think there's 122 presentations in video, audio, and transcripts in the members area. You get access to an app, and then you have a members, so you can listen and learn anywhere you are and while you're on the go. And you can share those presentations with people. So whether if you're a professional with your clients or just an animal lover like the rest of us, then you can share with your friends. And it's just kind of neat. And then we're starting this month monthly mini masterclasses, and Petra Christensen is doing the first one, and it's going to be really neat. So it's included with VIPs with your membership, and those of you who aren't, if you're interested in this, just watch out for your email inbox. We'll send out details. And then these mini masterclasses are about anywhere between 15 to 30 bucks each, and then you can just basically buy access to that one specific training. So just a quick little infomercial for you. That's my sales pitch for today, which that's supposed to be a joke because these are not sales calls or trainings. They're educational. And now Jennifer is back, so I bought us some time.
Excellent, thank you.
So there's a couple questions I want to finish up with here, and I want to see if there's any. Mitzi, how you doing from Oregon? Where is this? Oh, I just want to put this up here because Melissa had some really good follow-up comments about just saying that good to get others' input. Totally agree, and we do get blocked, which is really helpful. Which is true. It's natural. Like as much as I think I have everything figured out, and then my coach comes in and gives me a slice of humble pie, and I'm like, okay, yes, I get it now. But it's just good to have different perspectives as well. And then she was also commenting about sharing the random feeding times. And purposely done this for a reason, done this for that reason. Others have told me that it's wrong and need a schedule. I have seen better health with the random for sure. So I just want to leave this on the table for consideration. There's an old saying that I use in business, but also I learned it from holistic health. And one of my coaches that has taught me so much, his name is Paul Check, and he's here in the health and wellness field, and holistically speaking. And he always would say before presentation, don't believe anything I tell you, and basically just take the information, try it out and apply it. Make sure you follow the instructions and judge by results. First, if you have the results, what was the technique? How was it applied? Was it done correctly? Was it the proper technique for that given situation? And I think I'm sharing this because what Melissa's saying here is that others had told her that they need to have a feeding schedule, but that's just really comes from a human idea of we need to have a feeding schedule, which we won't get into that right now with humans because that's a big discussion. But that she got better results and noticed that there was better help with random for sure. So she just essentially, now this may not always be the case. You may have a very high needs little dog or a big dog and you need to have their schedule and if they don't, it throws them completely off. But you'll only know that until you try and then you'll that's for sure. Yes. So any other comments on that while I pull up one from Diana?
Yeah, no, I really agree with that. Just, you know, we get so conditioned, I think. You know, just something simple as your dog needs to be fed twice a day at regular times. Why? Who says that? Just because that's the way most people do it? Does that make it right?
Yeah.
You know, just because that's the way it's done and that's what most people do doesn't mean it's the best way. So
gotta consciously question everything.
Absolutely.
Now, Diana, I don't see your posts from last week, if possible. Diana, I'm going to have to go back to that question. Pardon me, I don't recall. Maybe you could post it again, but if that was for Dr. Christine, I might have to get that over to her. But I thought you meant there was a post on here right now. And so I think it was really good. So let's this really big one from Rebecca. Yeah, this one definitely takes up the whole screen.
Okay.
I can make funny faces and nobody can see it. So I have a senior rescue dog who was starving and had many stomach issues and infections when we got him. He was on high doses of antibiotics and other meds over the years. We fed him a raw diet from Darwin's and supplement with dry and canned and some human meat scraps. He now has leukemia, stable as reflected in the blood work, but has wasted significantly and is losing control of his hind end. He has been on prednisone and other supplements. They're told by our vet not to feed raw anymore due to being immune suppressed. He is having mucousy, I think is what she's trying to say, diarrhea occasionally and loss of bowel control at times. We are unsure what to feed him and how to support him currently. Any comments? Now, before you try to comment, Jennifer, I was just going to say this is probably going to be one where that's a lot. There's a lot going on. Yeah. So just tell us the quick breakdown because we're well to get into 3 more questions if you have the time for it. Yeah. Just very briefly, you would recommend what process, whether she goes to you or somebody else, but I have a feeling she's going to need some more direct assistance.
Yeah, definitely a lot going on with this dog. Sounds like there's been, you know, quite a history of a lot of medication use. So there's going to be a lot to kind of correct, restore, rebalance. And as for the raw food diet, with the vet saying not to go on the raw food diet because his immune system is suppressed. So that would be because of the prednisone that he's taking. So I have not had any issues feeding dogs raw food who are taking prednisone. The only issues that I found is dogs who are doing chemotherapy drugs. That tends to suppress the immune system just too far that they cannot tolerate the bacteria in the raw food.
Yeah.
Their normal functions are just not there to protect them against that. So being on prednisone and eating raw food, like I said, I've not had any issues with dogs doing that. So I would continue with it if she's comfortable. But yeah, the dog has a lot going on. So really, the kind of what I would focus on is having a really clean diet, free of toxins, and a really species appropriate diet. So no grains, no dairy, any of those kinds of things, minimal vegetables if she's feeding vegetables. And then look at some supplements to try and restore some of the damage that's been done through all the antibiotic use. And some other supplements that are really good for supporting cancer, dogs that have cancer.
Yeah.
There's so many avenues you can kind of go. Essential oils could also be useful in many different aspects. There's really a lot. So
yeah.
Depending on, as I said, again, the big picture is kind of what specific direction I would be looking at taking, but.
Right. Yeah, I think as I was reading it, I got the gist of that from it. But so, Rebecca, if you're still on, I would encourage you to, when we post, which we probably should soon, Jennifer's website and a way to contact her, just to reach out there, because this is coming down the pipeline. We're seeing a trend here. We've done over 580 different surveys. You guys are getting feedback. The biggest thing that keeps coming up is there's a massive amount of information. There's paralysis of analysis. There's so much people get inundated. They go online to do research about essential oils, about feeding raw, about doing this and doing that, and then they're like, I'm so freaking confused now. I'm confused now than I was before. And that's where it comes back to what I call the guiding universal principle. When you put all that power outside of yourself, and not, if you're the praying type, asking God for direction and guidance, or meditating, or just asking your intuitive guidance, then you're in a state of like, it becomes fearful, and then that fear feeds into negative energy, increases your cortisol levels, then that feeds into the energy of your animals, and your animals pick up on it like, holy crap, what the heck's going on here? And I feel like that could be the challenge with Melissa, because she said, yes, there's been some deep grief, and yes, it's then you start thinking about it. And that's the number one thing is really just solving the confusion. And I think that there comes a point where getting a quick little tip goes really far. I feel like that's going to be really good for Melissa and the other lady we were talking about. She was earlier, Kim, I think earlier, but just making a couple of simple changes. But one like this, for Rebecca, I feel like it's a little bit more involved.
Yeah.
And, okay, so there's that one. Now, Kevin, I didn't mean to skip by you, my friend. Kevin and Wendy, who are great VIP members, said, sorry, just jumped on here. I heard the kibble or dry food is not good for your dog due to the moisture content and what they're putting in the dry food to preserve it. Is that true? I know the answer to this, but why don't you just...
Yes, the answer is yes, it's true. Yeah. So dry food has basically no moisture in it. But again, it's just not how dogs are designed to eat and how they're designed to get their moisture. They're designed to get majority of their moisture through the food that they eat. And cats, especially, actually don't, in the wild, in a natural case, they would not hardly ever drink water or lap water from something. They get 90% of their moisture from their food.
Huh.
They're desert animals.
Yeah.
Right?
That's interesting.
Yeah, so...
You wouldn't need as much if you're eating.
Well, it's true, and that's actually one of the things when you switch a dog from a processed food diet to a raw diet, one of the big things you notice is they're hardly ever at the water bowl. They're not drinking any water. I mean, I have 6 Mastiffs in my house, and I filled my water bowl this morning. Their water bowl this morning. I don't think I'm drinking out of a water bowl, but I don't think anyone's had a drink of water today yet.
Wow.
So, I mean, it's not hot out either. So, but yeah. And as for preservatives, when are preservatives ever good for you?
Yeah, it's...
there's different levels depending on what type of preservative, but a preservative has a lot of comparison to an antibiotic. Think about it, okay? They're killing bacteria, preventing bacteria from growing.
Denatures the food and slows down the breakdown process.
Yeah.
Enzymatic activity. Okay, that was really good. So Kevin, I think that's your answer, my friend. And there is, I'd encourage you to listen to the one that comes to top of mind is not only if you haven't watched, I know you're a VIP member, he commented before saying it's great because he goes through and gets new ideas every week and listens to the presentations. Go and listen to Jennifer Lee's presentation. And then Dr. Aaron O'Connor has a really great one as well about feeding raw and getting started from I think it's last year's summit. Good. And Brandy then commented here just saying, so should I maybe feed them more in the morning and less at night as well as change up the feeding times? I think we probably answered that one, but I would probably say yes. Would you agree?
Sure, Brandy. Why not?
Yeah.
What's the harm going to do to the dog? Nothing.
And I think that this is where the challenge, again, the challenge comes in that it's here at the surface level, from a human being standpoint, we really just tell me what to do, Jennifer, please. Just
no, I'm not going to.
One sheet here of all the stuff that I need to know, and then I can just put it in place and have my regimented feeding time for my animals. And here's the diet that they're always going to be on, and it's always going to work, and then everything's going to be perfectly and magically fine. But yes, that's where learning the skills, and I think that what you're doing and what we're doing with the Animal Wellness Summit is teaching you guys, we're sharing, how we've learned to be successful as the metaphor, if I take you fishing, you'll be fed for the day, but if I teach you how to fish, you'll eat for a lifetime. And I think that that's really my highest intention for you all watching by what we were talking about today with Jennifer is learning how to fish by the way we're answering the questions.
Yeah, it's about
from your perspective,
feeling empowered.
Yeah.
Okay. I can listen to 10 people that'll have advice for me in my life. They, like you say, they might tell me, Jennifer, this is what you should be eating. This is what you should eat for breakfast. This is how you should cook it. This is what you should eat for lunch, and on and on and on. And if I just go, oh, this person has all the answers, and I'm just going to do exactly what they say. No, that you're not being empowered. It's the same thing when you take your dog to the vet, and the vet says, okay, we're going to do A, we're going to do B, and we're going to do C, and that's our plan. And most people, okay, yeah, great, let's go for it. You're the expert. I'm going to defer to you.
Right.
Every one of you listening, watching this video, you are all your own experts. You just need to realize that. You need to take in the information. You need to rely on other people who have information, but no other person, no matter who they are, is going to have all the answers for you.
Yeah.
You need to find them for yourself.
Yeah, agreed. And this is great for Kevin's comment. We don't need to be veterinarians. Let's say that it's not a bad idea, but we just better educated in how we can take care of our animals. The same goes for people too. Absolutely, Kevin, and that's why we're here. And the goal really for our VIP program, just to put this in place, is that it's if you can get the information on just one of these calls or one of the trainings, one of the presentations that can change your perspective and or save you one unnecessary vet visit. I'm not saying don't take your pets and animals to the vets because you do if they are in need of it. But if you can save yourself that, you can save a lot of money and be more educated in the process. And as you said, Jennifer, which I love, more empowered.
So can I share a little story with you?
Yeah, hear it.
Okay.
We'll wrap up with this great little story. And before you start, I'll just say this. For all of you who have emailed in or put your questions and we didn't get to them, I just want to thank you in advance for your patience. We'll do our best next week with the next presenter. But just know that we will do our best to get to your question next time. And or if it's really urgent, email us at support@fullcircleholistichealth.com. And what we're doing is we're directing your questions to the presenter like Jennifer, who we think will be able to help you with your questions. So go ahead, Jennifer, let's hear the story.
Sure. So a number of years ago, one of my dogs, within about 24 hours, completely lost the use of his rear legs, hind legs. So he was about 9 months old and very large already for his age. So you can just imagine the difficulty that we were all having dealing with a dog, a very large dog who basically could not get up, could not stand, could not go out to the bathroom. So, of course, immediately I took the dog into my vet. My regular vet is not a holistic vet. It's someone that I've worked with for 10 plus years. So I know them really well. We know each other. So we went in, had some x-rays done, had an exam done. Nothing was found to indicate what could be causing this problem. There was no trauma that I knew of, so it was really a bit of a mystery, but something obviously we needed to resolve really fast. So we got a referral to the specialist. So we went up to the specialist the very next day with this dog who could not walk and who was about 170 pounds at that time. So very challenging, very stressful. You know, it's a young dog, so it's very emotional of what is going on for me. So we get to the specialist and he does a really thorough exam on him. And he says, well, from his symptoms and everything, he says he would recommend doing an MRI of his spine. Obviously, there's something spinal going on, which is what we were thinking. So he's laying out the options to me. And of course, it's a specialist center, so it's very expensive. I don't know. I know veterinary fees can be different across the different parts of the country, especially between Canada and the US. But this specialist that we were at, it was going to be $3,000 for an MRI. And they probably, well, they would need 2 MRIs to capture enough of this dog's spine because he's so large, and possibly 3 MRIs. So we were looking at $6,000 to $9,000 just for some diagnostic work. And okay, so I'm taking this in, and you know, I asked, well, what are the odds that, you know, after we do the MRI, we'll have a diagnosis and answers, we'll know what's going on. What's the chances of that happening? They didn't really give me any sort of percentages or whatnot. They just said, well, we may or may not find out. Okay. So you know, they're pressuring you. They say, oh, you can do the MRI right now. We can do it today. You don't want to wait when there's, you know, spinal things going on because it can cause permanent damage and you're feeling this guilt and like, oh, I have to do the right thing by my dog. Anyways, I decided not happening, at least not today. So we took him home and I did some crazy fast research on the internet and trying to figure out what I'm going to do with this dog. So my regular vet had given me some prednisone, which I hadn't given to him yet. So I decided I'm going to give him the prednisone and see if there's any improvement in within like a week or so. Not really a fan of drugs such as prednisone, but sometimes we have to do what we have to do. So we did that. I booked a chiropractic appointment for him. And after that first chiropractic appointment, he was up on his own 4 legs, 1 session, And so we continued with that. We did chiropractic and acupuncture. We weaned him off the prednisone. Perfect. He has no issues. Today he's like 7 years old. So it just shows you, and then you think, okay, so if I had gone ahead with what was recommended, the MRIs, okay, first I'd be out a lot of money. And second, what the specialist had said is that if they don't find anything on the MRI, they would like to do a exploratory spinal surgery. So what would happen? You know, who knows? I mean, you can only guess, but I'm very thankful for the decision that I did make. And we didn't do anything invasive. He was on a prescription medication for a couple of weeks, and that was it. And I still have a lot more money in my bank account and a happy, healthy dog. So it just goes to show you, you know, that you need to make your own decisions. You need to be empowered for your animal and be an advocate for them. And I can't stress that enough.
Yeah, that's really, really powerful. And I know that there's the dark side of the coin too, where people, you know, make decisions and then something might happen. Maybe they don't make it through or decide to put them down. And then there's that, you know, we've heard that too before, with dealing with the grief and the loss. And
yes.
But I think that the moral story that I got from listening was really just trusting your own judgment.
Yes, yes. Trust your instincts.
Yeah.
You know your own dog better than anyone else.
Yeah.
Just because that other person may be trained in a specific modality or be a veterinarian, that doesn't diminish what you know about your dog or animal, any pet.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Well, it's pretty awesome. And thank you so very much. I know we started a little bit later, and so we were about an hour and 15 or 20 minutes. Usually we're about an hour, but that's usually a sign of a really great call. So thank you, Jennifer, for taking the time, and so that this is on audio for those of you who might be just listening to the audio-only version as a replay. You can find more about Jennifer Lee at thenaturalcarnivore.com, or email her at info@thenaturalcarnivore.com. And correct me if I'm wrong, that is the right website, right?
Yes, it is.
Perfect. That would have been embarrassing. So I encourage you, those of you who were talking to or just sent in your questions, if you have anything else, just to reach out to Jennifer and ask if she can help, and see how, you know, maybe just by going through the questionnaire and or getting some history and then doing a discovery call and seeing where you can go from there. So just in closing, is that how the process works? People would reach out to you and say, hey, here's my issue. And then you'd say, okay, great, here's how I work. And then do the questionnaire, so to speak, or the input form. And then you review it and then have a discovery call or a consult with them.
Yeah.
And then they can decide where to go from there.
Yeah, that's basically it. If anyone who's curious or interested, you can go onto my website under the consultation page. And there's a bunch of information there about how it all works. And I look forward to hearing from you guys.
Yeah, well, that's great. Awesome. Well, Melissa was just sharing, yes, you know your dog and trust your intuition.
Yes, Melissa.
Yeah, so it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, well, thank you very much, Jennifer, even though we had a little mix up at the time difference, but it's good. And thank you guys for jumping on here live. And again, if you felt inspired and empowered, as Jennifer said, with the information that was shared, please share this with your friends, family members, clients, coworkers, whoever, because we're on a mission to keep growing our impact. And the more empowered pet parents and animal lovers we have on the planet, the more that we're going to have just a better connection with our animals and pets. And I watched The Blue Planet 2, as I want to close off with this. And I really, I mean, it was a lot about all the aquatic, like all the fish and mammals that are in the water. But I was really inspired at the end of it because the guys were saying it took them 4 years to shoot that documentary. And I know that it doesn't necessarily have a direct relationship to what we're talking about today, but the message that on the seventh episode or whatever, because there's like 7 different hour-long sessions, I guess. And they said that, you know, they were saying about these the leatherback turtles in Trinidad, I think it was. There was like 20 years ago, there was only 40 of them that were coming to the beach where they were laying their eggs. And now with the work that they've done over 20 years, there's now over 540 or 520 of them that are coming and laying their eggs. And then, you know, so it's changing, where there was a time there where it was getting really kind of scary, and some endangered species that there's been more attention paid to them. Now they're coming back, and I think that the moral of the story is the more that we take a conscious approach and empowering ourselves as the pet parents and animal lovers, will see that reflection and the changes and the ripple effects in the rest of the world, as small or seemingly small as they might seem. So yeah. All right. Awesome. Okay. Thanks, Jennifer. Thank you, everybody. Have a great week. And this was a great first call of 2019. Only more that are yet to come. And again, I'm just going to put Jennifer's information up here. You can go reach out to her at thenaturalcarnivore.com or info@thenaturalcarnivore.com. And if you want to learn more about us and the VIP memberships and platinum memberships that we offer, just go to animalwellnesssummit.com. And we'll see you there. Stay blessed, stay grateful, stay humble, and stay hungry. And we'll see you guys on the next call.